In the meantime, these Texas Democrats about to hold a news conference in Washington, D.C. There's the alert after they fled their state on a private plane or two, trying to stop a Republican effort to strengthen election laws. It took a lot of selfies, Dana, along the way. Here to talk about it, Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, how you doing? And good morning to you, sir. Got a lot to get through. We'll see how much we can get through in the next couple of minutes here. Governor Abbott said last night on local TV in Texas, he said, I will call a special session after special session, until election of next year. All right, I don't know if that's the fate here, but how does this end, do you think, with lawmakers leaving the state?
Well, I think it's going to end with the Texas legislature taking up and passing election integrity legislation. What you're seeing the Democrats do here is a political stunt. And, you know, I will say it's ironic. As they were getting on their private jet to fly to Washington, D.C., they almost surely had to show identification to get on that jet. And yet they're doing this in a fit because they don't want mail-in ballots to be verified. They don't want the signatures to be verified. They don't want basic integrity steps to be strengthened in the state of Texas. This is, at the end of the day, politics, and they need to get back to doing their jobs. And one way or the other, they will. One of the things, you know, it's interesting, Bill, one of the very first assignments I ever had back 17 years ago, when I was newly appointed as the Solicitor General of Texas, one of the first questions I ever got is the Speaker of the House of the legislature. The legislature was redistricting then, and the Democrats did the same thing. They fled. That time they fled for Ardmore, Oklahoma, the House members, and then shortly thereafter for Albuquerque, New Mexico. And the Speaker of the House asked the Attorney General, who was then Greg Abbott, my boss, he said, hey, do I have the authority to arrest fleeing legislatures, these Democrats that have left to break a quorum? And Abbott, in turn, asked me. I did the research, and it turns out the answer is yes. Under the Texas Constitution, there's a provision that explicitly gives the Speaker the authority to arrest fleeing House members. That provision is copied word for word from the U.S. Constitution. And so this stunt is going to fail. They're going to come back. There's going to be a quorum, and I believe the legislature is going to do its job and protect the integrity of elections. Ensure people can vote, but also ensure that we don't have fraud, we don't have people casting illegal votes.
All fascinating, so we'll keep an eye on that. Of course, somebody had to pay for the private jets. Interesting to see who that would be. And also, they did fundraising appeals last night, which might give you a clue as to the other reason that this is happening. In the meantime, can I take you to Cuba and tell us a little bit about your thoughts there? I do want to get your reaction to Senator Bernie Sanders. He was responding to our own Peter Doocy on his past support of Cuban policies. Watch.
Last year during the campaign, you said that it's unfair to simply say everything is bad in Cuba. Do you still share that sentiment now that the people there seem to be?
Well, I support throughout Latin America and in Cuba and every place else the right of people to protest for a decent economy and for political freedom.
Senator?
Well, it's interesting that Bernie says he supports the right of people to protest. You know who doesn't support that right? The Cuban communist dictatorship that Bernie also supports. Right now, the Cuban thugs are out there arresting protesters. They're throwing them in jail. They're clubbing them. They're beating them. And this is not new. For decades, the communist dictatorship in Cuba has committed murder, has committed torture, has committed incredible atrocities. And Dana, as you know, for me, this is not just a theoretical matter. My father was imprisoned and tortured by Batista, Castro's predecessor. My aunt, my tia Sonia, was imprisoned and tortured by Castro. So my family, like so many millions of other Cuban families, have seen the brutal oppression of communism firsthand. And I got to say, watching these images, watching Cuban people in the streets, risking their lives. When you stand up and protest, it's one thing to wave a flag here in the U.S. where you're not risking your life. There, they are literally risking imprisonment and death. And the American people stand with the people of Cuba. And I got to say, the Biden administration has been terrible on this. You know, they put out a statement saying this shows their right to peaceful assembly. No, it shows a communist dictatorship trying to silence their speech. And the Biden administration claims these protests are about COVID. They just want some more COVID shots. No, these protests, they are yelling libertad. They are yelling freedom in the streets. They're yelling down with the dictatorship, and they're waving American flags. What a beautiful symbol of freedom the American flag is across the globe. And yet Joe Biden and Kamala Harris can't seem to figure out why that freedom is important and why those people are standing up and risking their lives.
Well, you're exactly right about the bravery in more than 40 cities throughout that country. I don't think we've seen it in more than 60 years at this level. Final topic, got to run here. You won Title 42, which deals with immigration on the southern border, that if you have COVID, you cannot come into the country. Is that going to lapse or not, sir?
Well, we're hearing concerning reports that the Biden administration intends to end enforcement under Title 42. Title 42 is the legal authority that allows you with illegal immigrants when they come to expel them and expel them quickly because of the pandemic. And the Biden administration is making noise. They want to end that. I've introduced legislation this week to maintain the protections of Title 42. Listen, there's still a global pandemic. Many Americans have gotten vaccinated. I've gotten vaccinated. But a lot of the people coming here illegally, they haven't. And as we see new variants of this disease, we've seen the disaster of Joe Biden's open border policy. It is putting a huge cost on my home state of Texas. And now these guys want to make it worse and release essentially everybody who comes. Title 42 has been having effect with regards to single young men who may be COVID positive. And if the Biden administration releases them as well, it would be putting politics ahead of public safety and public health. I think that'd be a serious mistake.
See where it goes. Senator, thank you. Please come back. Ted Cruz, thanks.